In terms of the swing itself, and I mentioned the grip. The reason I don't like the grip being so strong, so strong means your left hand is really on top of the club in a very, very cupped position at setup. Cupped meaning the knuckles hinge above the forearm. Your trail hand, so your right hand is very much to the side. We see kind of this position here, right? The reason I don't like this is because when I get very, very strong with my grip, number one, yes, the club face is going to likely go back very closed. So you're being told right now to just kind of roll the face open. I don't like that because that creates forearm rotation, which gets the club flat, and that might create some other bad habits. But also, when the grip gets very strong, the lead wrist is going to stay really cupped throughout your swing. If this lead wrist stays a little too cupped for you specifically, it gets you a little across the line, which is okay, but then it gets very narrow because of that lead wrist. And obviously from here, you get a little bit stuck too deep with the hands, deep meaning too inside, and too steep with the shaft. So how am I supposed to correct this from here? Well, I'm going to shallow it late by tilting my body. And that's why from face on, coming into the ball, we see a lot of this, which is what I was referencing, right? That left shoulder just shoots to the sky, your head starts to fall backwards, your body starts to do things late in the swing to shallow out the fact that this club is way too steep. And if I just tilt my chest enough the way I just showed you from face on, I will offset that by getting the club to lower. The problem is, the way in which you're accomplishing that is going to create a lot of timing. It's going to create a lot of timing for your low point control, right? You can catch it thin if you get too shallow. You can catch it heavy if your club drop kicks behind the ball. But also, when I do that and I tilt that way, well, now I have to manage the face angle because I'm no longer rotating my body very well back on top of the ball. So if I flip at it, the ball can snap hook really quickly. And if I don't, well, I'm swinging so much more from the inside when I shallow it later like that, that I can hit a lot of blocks. And that's obviously what we're seeing, right? Is a lot of low lefts you mentioned on your irons and a lot of high rights on the driver. It's being created the same way. It's just the difference of the timing of how much you save it at the bottom. But both misses stem from the same root cause there. And so what I would love to see is if we weakened the grip from being as strong as yours is, like this, if we weaken the grip to a more comfortable, more neutral position, which means instead of having the lead wrist so on top, we're going to weaken it by about one full knuckle. So one knuckle rotated towards the target. And then you're going to take the trail hand and also match that and weaken it more on top, rotated towards the target by about one knuckle. What this does is this effectively neutralizes your grip to something that's less extreme, right? This is much more of a neutral grip or closer to it than where you typically are, which is much more in this stronger position. So the strength, yes, it helps us to control the face, but it gets the lead wrist very cupped and gets us very narrow that we have to manage it later. If we get the grip into more of a neutral position, well, early on, you might feel like you're going to miss it way out to the right because the face angle is going to feel very open relative to where you were previously. Even if the face isn't necessarily open, it's going to feel that way to you. But then also, once we get the grip into more of a neutral alignment, okay, so both hands weakened by one knuckle towards the target, then what we're going to do is we're going to work on feeling a lot of width to the arms. Width means we're going to feel as though we're really pushing our arms away from our body, because you not only get very strong with the grip, but then you get very narrow with the shaft throughout your pattern. We want the shaft in our hands to feel like they're much farther away from our body than what you've been accustomed to, right? So we're going to take our grip, which is now obviously weaker, and then we're going to feel like we are pushing our hands as far away from us as possible. Far away meaning create distance between both hands and the chest. Okay? And what this is going to do is, number one, it's going to prevent us from getting narrow and across the line and steep coming down. But also number two, if we retain a lot more width at the top and then retain it coming down, so on the way down we also feel like our hands are pushing away from our chest, it helps us to get the club on a better plane earlier in the downswing, which will then allow your chest to actually turn back on top of the ball and not need to do so much of this late in the swing. We can actually neutralize the chest tilts and keep you a little bit more on top of it. Whereas right now your chest is working up and behind it, right? It has to work that way because of where the club is and how the face is closed, and that manages those two variables. But if we get the club theoretically in a better position by weakening the grip and feeling a lot of width, not only is the wrist angle going to change because the grip is in a different spot, the shaft plane is going to change because we're feeling the width, the face angle is not as shut anymore, and now we can actually start to just feel a lot more rotary with our body through the golf ball. We're not going to be able to piece it all together at once because it is quite a lot. But if we even just start by getting the backswing into some cleaner alignments, not as narrow and not as steep and with the face as shut, it'll make it a lot easier for us to rework the transition down if we need some new feels at that point. But really the goal is to start with the grip being a little bit weaker and just feeling really a lot of the same stuff that you're doing now in terms of pivot and in terms of hinging. Just feel like you're pushing your hands as far away from your chest as possible throughout the backswing, and we might feel a little bit more passive with the wrist structure as we do it. Simple as that. And this is going to get us into so much better spots. And then obviously eventually we'll be not only better here, we'll be better here, which will allow us to turn better through the golf ball, and we're going to slowly start to build everything in at the same time, okay?